crisis, a lot of people were reacting, to the general war agenda against the Akufo-Addo administration and so on. I would think that that is what happened. But we didn't make a conscious decision to change the hang parliament and to give the NDC an overwhelming majority. That conscious decision was not made, you understand. Before the election, I spoke to many of my friends on the other side of the new patriotic party. And one of the things that they kept saying, and I was wondering where it was coming from, was that yes, they knew that things were hard. They knew that in the normal circumstances they should lose the election or would lose the election. But the NDC had made a mistake in bringing back former President John Dramani Mahama. And the people of Ghana could not bring themselves to vote for Mahama, and therefore they were going to win the elections. And this statement was made by very prominent people who ought to know. It was even made by somebody who is a kingpin in the national security establishment, which must have been getting all the briefing, all the data analysis, and so on. But the results are out, and now we do know that the people of Ghana did not have that rejection, or not in that rejection vote against, former President John Dramani Mahama. Then there was opinion polls. My goodness. That was interesting. Almost all of them were occupied. With just a few, making the mark. And here we must, congratulate Global Analytics, which came very close, to what actually became the actual result, of the election. It seemed to me that some of the opinion polls were conducted by persons who were engaged in propaganda, who wanted to create a bandwagon effect. You know that there's a bandwagon effect. But unfortunately, they failed so miserably, and the results of the election showed very clearly. Now, Randy, you had a discussion with a very prominent person from the Baumia campaign who actually admitted that about 10 months before the elections, they knew that they were going to lose. Yes. And that their step had shown that their votes were appreciated.
Yes.
But they knew that they were going to lose.
Yes, but he said that about a couple of weeks to when he was speaking, he had become very close.
Yes, but he was still...
Yeah, very close. So that is where the issue of a second round and all those things will come. And he was hoping that with the coming days they could
overtake. Yes. My point is simply this. If they do a trick, why did they get the gusto, to be looking us in the face and to be telling us that we're going to win, some claiming that by landslide and so on, when they knew that
gone out and shouting, we are going to lose.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yes.
I'm not saying that, no. What I'm saying is that they should not have come to us, looked us in the face, and told us they're going to win by the wide margin, when they knew that factually on the ground, they were training.
Okay, so just to put things in context, would it also not be that, look, for example, if they were losing by 10 percentage points, and then just after Dr. Baumia started his, I hope roadshow will not be derogatory, like started his campaign, yes, their polls showed, their own polling showed that they were closing the gap. And looking at the rate at which they were closing, it gave them some hope that if they were to intensify the campaign and go in certain directions, they could overtake.
They could have said that. No. They could have said that our studies showed that we were trained.
But who says that? Who will say that?
But it is possible to say that. And you said that has been said in many elections.
Yeah, but that will demoralize your people.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It will demoralize your people.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You understand? Honesty itself has a way of galvanizing support. Honesty.
see, I don't disagree with you, but you see, in jurisdictions, in jurisdictions where independent polling, credible independent polling, is a part of the culture, and people can read the polls themselves. You cannot mislead them. When the credible polls say that there is a 3% gap, there's a 4% gap, you cannot come and say I'm winning by a landslide. But it appears that in our situation, like you said, there is unhearding of so-called polls and all that. And that is why some of those commentary...
You're making exactly the same point that I'm making.
Because in other jurisdictions, you can't lie. You can't say those things.
You know, left the situation where, I mean, people actually looked into our face and told us blatant lies when they knew the truth. Now, Kogu is suggesting, and I think that you supported him to some extent, that you couldn't tell the truth. Because it
no.
It's not a question of
Can I? Yeah. What question is it?
we're supposed to tell lies. That's not an issue. I'm trying to recollect.
Starting today, anyone can monetize with ads. As part of the all-new Beehive ad network,
I'm trying to recollect. Canadians like let's restrict ourselves. Where political parties or actors have gone on the campaign trail and openly acknowledged that look, in spite of all our efforts, we're about to lose. It hasn't happened. In fact, that will frustrate and dissipate their electoral and political energies.
But I'm not saying what you're saying. I'm not saying that they should have gone ahead and told us that, look, in spite of our efforts and everything we're going to do.
They say they shouldn't have lied to us. They shouldn't have said all those fantastic things.
But don't be cool.
Yes.
You know, analysis is not about black and white areas alone. There are gray areas also in analysis. Now, what I'm saying is simply this. That you could go ahead and say, look, we've done examinations, we are trailing behind. But the indications that we are catching out, and that we are doing X, Y, Z, which we hope will put us in the lead. That's honest.
That might not be for public consumption in the campaign contest.
Why?
It's not realistic.
Why? People are going into elections in Ghana. People are going into elections in Ghana claiming to be third forces.
Yeah, but not the two leading parties.
Yeah, but I'm saying that it is possible. You are going into elections. Here's the balance. You can kill ratings in second rounds and so
that's objective.
Yeah, that's objective reality. You understand? So, here, I mean, those who could look into our face and tell us what we need to be for could not have organized a good campaign.
Right.
A good campaign is organized on the basis of facts. A good campaign is organized on a truthful analysis of the situation. You know, when you're organizing a campaign and you know that your message is based on false, is based on not realistic, how do you hope to win the election?
Right. Okay. So let me bring you in at this point, yes.
You know, well, I don't want us to drag
Yes.
final point because I would never ever go out to campaign and tell people that in spite of all my efforts, I'm going to lose or I might lose. It doesn't galvanize your support base.
But that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that if you said that we've done an analysis, we are training, and that given X, Y, Z, we will catch up and overtake them and win. That's different from the message we are.
You can't even tell that the generality of the electorate when you are campaigning.
Maybe in Ghana, but like I hinted earlier on, elsewhere, where you have credible polling, the citizenry are fully aware.
Yes.
That this poll, that poll says that there are 4 percentage points difference. There's 5 percentage point difference. There is even an average of all the poll of polls, which says that in those jurisdictions, you cannot go and tell them that you are winning by a landslide.
Yes.
Take the US elections. Take the US elections. Just happen. Take the US elections. The Democrats at some point admitted that there were certain constituencies that they were losing.
The poll showed.
The poll showed. And then
the entirety of the.
But in fact, that's what proves the ouster of Biden.
And then they were actually organizing programs in order to win over those constituencies.
Yes.
It included black men, for example.
Yeah.
It included women voters a certain time and so on. So clearly, as they went along, they were monitoring their position, they were monitoring factors which could lead to their defeat or their victory, and they were working on it publicly, in the public glare.
Okay. Maybe we'll get there.
Exactly, ma'am. If you put it that way, I have no challenge with it. But otherwise, I will have challenges. Chrissy has run an election before. I'm sure he was confident he was going to win, but it didn't happen. I was on his side in that particular campaign. You know? So, to be honest, if you overgeneralize the point he's making, it could lead to the realm of fallacy, in my candid opinion. Yeah, but
Ready to be an e-commerce pioneer? Bluehost has step-by-step WordPress onboarding to make creating and running a great online store easy.
Always a magical time to freeze your tits off, but this winter, the city is adding something extra special.
Tonight, a first-in-the-nation toll called congestion pricing, now in effect in New York City. Millions of drivers paying $9 to access the busiest part of Manhattan, south of 60th Street.
Huh, that makes sense. One clap. one person here thinks that makes sense. Makes sense. If you charge more to drive in the city, the roads get less congested. Who could have a problem with that?
It's horrible, horrible. So now they're coming down on the hard people that are trying to work and make money.
I dropped my wife off at the apartment on 60th Street, and I got to pay $9 extra to do that.
Whoever's putting that bill together needs to see a psychiatrist.
This is New York, pal. Everyone's already seeing a psychiatrist. Look, I get it. New York is already a crazy expensive place to live. The only reason I had kids was so I could split the rent with someone. And I guess for some commuters who don't have other options, this could be a real hardship, but not everyone who's complaining is quite so sympathetic.
It really hits home because I live right here on 61st Street in this building, and my car is right there. Parked in front of my building, and if I want to go to turn around to go uptown to visit my kids who live on 79th Street, I have to pay $9 to go around the block.
Your future is at your fingertips. Take advantage of the flexibility and diversity of futures trading with Ninja Trader, the #1 rated futures broker. Start trading futures today.
That's settled. I'll never see my kids again. Buddy, driving is not the only way to get across 20 blocks. You could take the subway or the bus, or have you considered legs? Legs. The Ford F-150 of the body. Although not action like taking mass transit, I mean action
cameras planted strategically around the city. This brazen driver removed his plates altogether.
Wait, how is that clever? He just took off his license plate. So that's clever, but when I avoid my taxes by telling the IRS that I'm dead, I'm a wanted felon? Come on. It's not right. I don't think so. Removing the license plates isn't clever. Now, covering your car in license plates, that would be clever. But regardless, don't commit crimes, all right? Because Mayor Eric Adams doesn't need another thing to worry about.
Mayor Eric Adams laughed off a question asking him to assess how it's working so far. But he also reminded New Yorkers congestion pricing wasn't his idea.
I have 99 problems.
99 problems? I think those are called indictments. I don't know if 99 Problems is a song people associate most with Eric Adams. I'd go with In the Club, or Club Can't Handle Me, or I'm under investigation for bribes from Turkey. Real hip-hop heads know that one. Look, I know that this is a big change, and I get that there are some drivers who are worried about the safety on the subway, but the more people who use the subway, the less room the subway masturbators will have to masturbate. So it works out for everyone. We'll see how it all turns out, although so far the news has been pretty positive.
The Lincoln Tunnel moving well. It's almost unheard of at this hour to see that. So it could be that congestion pricing has gotten people off the road.
Look at that! It's working! And yes, it's only been a few days, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm pretty sure that there will never be any problems in New York ever again. Of course, in a city this big, there's bound to be a variety of opinions about congestion pricing, so we sent Josh Johnson to the streets to get some of them.
New Yorkers disagree on a lot of things. Yankee versus Mets, pizza toppings, whether you can poop on the subway or not. But now there's one thing ripping New Yorkers apart more than ever.
Congestion pricing is official.
Drivers are now paying to drive south of 60th Street.
I had to pay the congestion pricing.
How do you feel about it?
Not too happy.
Cars or
Congestion
Congestion
pricing.
pricing.
Cars.
Both.
the cars?
I don't like the idea of all those New Jersey people being taxed so heavily.
Do you think that maybe it should go the other way? Maybe New York should have to pay $9 to get New Jersey?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
Nobody wants to go to Jersey unless they have to.
You need cars.
Yeah, because cars are very important. Because as a New Yorker, how else are you going to get where you need to be? Besides the subway or the bus or a bike or like a pedicab or the horse-drawn carriage, scooters, segways, rollerblades are in again. Solo wheels, piggyback rides, you know, some nice walking with a purpose. Yeah, we need more options, you know?
They need the money for the MTA. It's supposed to raise $15 billion a year. So, you know, I definitely feel okay the city doing this.
What type of improvements would be made to the MTA?
Regular service that's completely reliable. Teleportation.
Teleportation is actually way more likely than the regular service.
The first thing I would love to fix is that we have lights everywhere. I don't have to be afraid to walk in a dark tunnel when I get off of work at night.
Okay.
I would also like to have them have some people maybe help the people that I see walking around naked.
I'm very sorry about that. That was me, and that was a hot day. I mean, maybe they could use some of that money for like some Glade plugins in subway cars. That'd be a huge improvement right there.
I'm guessing because of the crime rate in the subway, it's probably not the number one priority, is my guess.
But if I'm being mugged on the subway and it also stinks, that's two bad things happening to me at the same time. I want to get robbed somewhere clean.
Yeah, I think hygiene is important.
One of my biggest hopes is that with less cars, with less congestion, right, it'll make Eric Adams trying to get away from the feds a much cooler chase.
There you go.
Like that,
He'll
we're
be able to
talking like foreign supremacy level chase. So, I mean, less cars means less noise. Who would have thought? With less noise, I can finally hear jackhammers, I can hear sirens, I can hear like news and screams and stuff.
Yeah, but
Somebody sees me.
that's you know, that's showing love in New York. Saying you. So you know, I walk around and say you to this camera. You, that's showing love.
Yeah, a good you lets you know not only are you in New York, but you're really alive.
Yeah.
Before we part ways,